Everyone knows about Valentine's Day. It's the day of the year where couples and lovers come together to celebrate their love for one another. Couples traditionally eat out in fancy restaurants and give each other gifts like Valentine's Day cards, flowers, chocolates, and plush toys. So much so that in 2019, Americans alone spent more than $20 billion on Valentine's Day. Which in turn leads people to believe that Valentine's Day is a modern invention, created by large companies to push rampant consumerism and materialism on modern societies. But this assumption could not be further from the truth. Just like Halloween, Valentine's Day also finds its roots in an ancient pagan festival. The festival was called Lupercalia and was celebrated on the 15th of February. Modern historians think the name might come from the Latin word lupus, which means wolf, but no one is sure because both its etymology and significance are obscure. But what we do know is that contrary to Halloween, Valentine's Day actually has a myth explaining its origins. The story dates back to the foundation of Rome in the middle of the 8th century BC, and its mythical king, Romulus. Keep in mind that what I'm about to tell you are Roman myths, and not historical facts. At the beginning, Rome was apparently exclusively populated by men, which leads some to believe that Rome might actually have been a colony, but that's a story for another time. To make a story short, the Romans kidnapped the virgin women of the neighboring Sabine community. This event became known as the Rape of the Sabine Women, that I briefly mentioned in my previous video on the origins of the Gracchi brothers. And by the time the Sabine men got together to face the Romans and liberate their women, the Sabine women had time to develop a Stockholm syndrome. And so just before the two rival armies started fighting over them, they quickly ran in the middle of the two armies to prevent them from fighting one another, explaining to their men that they fell in love with the Romans and wanted to stay with them willingly. So with their new loving wives, the Romans finally had everything they needed to create a real community. But as time went on, a new problem became evident to everyone. Not one of their new Sabine wives got pregnant. No matter how much or how hard they tried, none of their efforts ever bore fruits. And that's a catastrophe. How can a society survive and prosper if there's no children and no births? Their new settlement was already doomed to fail and disappear. The Romans were wondering what they could possibly do to solve the problem when they heard a distant voice carried out by the wind. The voice, coming from deep within the neighboring forest, was that of their goddess Juno, goddess of marriage, fertility, and queen of the gods. Juno told the Romans that for their wives to be able to conceive and bear children, they all needed to be penetrated by a male goat. Here we see that contrary to what certain people might say about the Romans, they weren't as depraved as they're sometimes depicted to be in pop culture. Because believe it or not, no one was really keen on the idea of a male goat penetrating their wives. And so the Romans got together and tried to figure out a way to follow Juno's command without doing anything too weird. And they eventually came up with a solution. They took the skin of a male goat and sliced it up in long, thin strips of leather. They then took handfuls of these leather strips and started using them as flogs to whip the women. The strips cut through their flesh and penetrated their wounds, meaning that they all technically were penetrated by a male goat, following Juno's command to the letter and inventing BDSM at the same time. Alright, so maybe they were a little depraved after all. But regardless, after getting flogged, the women were then finally able to conceive and bear children. So I guess they kinda had an excuse to be degenerates this one time. That was the myth of the origins of the festival of Lupercalia. But the ancient authors also mentioned that it apparently appeared long before the Trojan War, meaning that Lupercalia would have been practiced for over 1800 years. We're not sure when it started. Even the ancient Romans said they could not precisely say when it started. But even if we don't know the precise origins of the festival, we do know about the ritual of Lupercalia in great details. Like I already mentioned, Lupercalia was celebrated on the 15th of February. The ritual would start in the Lupercal cave, located at the foot of the Palatine Hill, which according to Livy, was where the first Romans originally settled. It was the same cave where according to the Romans, Romulus and Remus had been nursed by the she-wolf. The ritual was conducted by the Luperci, a college of priests dedicated to the Roman god Faunus, a horned, goat-like god, similar to Pan, who would protect herds of animals and assure their fertility. His name either meant favorable in Indo-European or strangler in Latin. The latter explanation would also associate him with wolves. The ritual would start with the ritual sacrifice of a male goat and a dog. The priest in charge of the sacrifice would then turn towards two young noble men, each dressed in goat skins. The priest would wipe the bloodied knife on their foreheads to smear them with blood, causing them to laugh ecstatically. After that, the blood on their knife and their foreheads would be washed away with a wool flake dipped in milk. The skin of the sacrificed he-goat would then be sliced into thin leather strips. The two young men would then grab hold of these leather strips to use them as flogs and run out of the cave. They'd run around in a circle around the Palatine Hill and flog absolutely everything and everyone they came across. They'd flog men, women, even the walls and the ground. Like I said, absolutely everything. Now you might find it a little weird. After all, who would want to be flogged by a half-naked man dressed in goat skins? Well, believe it or not, but Roman women actually wanted the men to flog them. The Romans believed that a woman flogged during the ritual of Lupercalia would receive magical blessings from the gods. The women especially wanted to be whipped on their hands, their bellies, and their backs, because they believed they'd be blessed with an increase in fertility and would be protected from dying during childbirth. A feast was also organized for Lupercalia. It was common practice among Indo-European cultures to organize feasts during every festival to eat a part of the sacrificial meat, so I'm assuming they also ate part of the goat and the dogs who were sacrificed in the cave. Lupercalia remained an integral part of Roman culture for centuries. Even with the Christianization of the Roman world, Lupercalia remained as popular as it was in the ancient world. Both pagans and Christians participated in the celebration, so much so that in between 494 and 496, the Pope, Gelasius I, wrote a letter to the senators asking them to abolish the festival, claiming that only the vile rabble participated in the festival. We don't know when the festival disappeared. Some people claim Pope Gelasius I was the one responsible for its disappearance, but I could not find any source to back up this claim. And that's the story of Lupercalia, the Valentine's Day of ancient Rome. I'd like to end this video by saying a few words to my male audience. Like I mentioned earlier in the beginning of my video, Valentine's Day can sometimes look like a consumerist pseudo-holiday, created by corporations to make us spend our hard-earned money, commodifying love, and making us judge relationships by the amount of money we're willing to spend on unnecessary tokens of affection. So if this year you guys feel the need to run from the mercantile version of Valentine's Day, then go back to the roots of the holiday. Dress up like a savage, kill a goat, smear some blood on your forehead, and flog the shit out of your girlfriend while the goat is cooking in the oven. I'm sure she'll be impressed and flattered by all the efforts you'll put into making her Valentine's Day memorable. If you enjoyed my video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment to let me know what you think of the video, or if you think I missed something. And don't worry, I'm still doing research on Tiberius Gracchus, so hopefully his video will come out before Easter.